But if he's reaching out to all of you guys, if he's reaching out to his friends, if he's reaching out to every coach in the industry, if we want to compare both looks, I really wouldn't have been proud of the Toronto look. When he turned around, there was a lot of detail that was lost, and there was just body fat that was there and water. Is the individual really, truly being able to take the sets to the true brain?
Hey guys, even here, and in today's video, we got a couple of very, very interesting things. The first one is about Quinton Eriya and Matt Jansen. For the first time ever, Matt Jansen opens up about Quinton Eriya and whatever happened between them after the New York Pro, where they failed pretty badly with Quinton's look. Now, I'm sure you guys remember what Quinton said about Matt, you know, all that stuff about F coaches. I'm not gonna hire a coach again ever. If somebody messes up your plan completely, would you hire them again, and so on? And Matt was classy about the whole thing. He never said anything so far. But this time around, he kinda, you know, in his way, let's say in a classy, in a polite way, he actually did call out Quinton Eriya. He did shoot his shots at him. And you're gonna hear this, it's very interesting. I cut out a couple of very interesting parts. You don't have to listen the whole thing, but this is the most interesting part. So we're gonna listen to it and then I'm gonna react. I'm gonna tell you what I think about this. So let's start.
What do you think went wrong with Quinton's look?
With Quinton, okay, so from New York, I was the first to admit that I feel that he was better in Texas 2 years ago than he was on stage. In New York. That being said, I think that we didn't align on the direction that he wanted to go and the time frame that he wanted to do it in. I wouldn't have been proud of that physique, especially from the back. Quinton himself, he's not posting back shots. He's not posting stage back shots from Toronto.
Whoa, I have to pause right here. First of all, I gotta say, this was on the Menace podcast, Muscle and Strength YouTube channel, so you can watch the whole thing over there if you want, but what Matt says right here, this first part, that was very interesting to me. So first of all, he's aware. He's aware that Quinton didn't look good at the New York Pro stage. He was better 2 years before at a Texas Pro. Before, they did an entire off-season, 1 year and a half, which was a really long time to work on mass and on improvements and then to show up looking worse. He's aware of that, at least. But then he says he wouldn't be proud of what Quinton brought to the Toronto Pro stage. Which, I gotta say, I completely disagree. You're gonna hear what else Matt had to say about this, and he had a lot of things to say about this. But first of all, he wasn't happy with what Quinton brought to the Toronto Pro stage, and I gotta disagree completely. Quinton was a lot fuller. And yeah, he wasn't as conditioned, but in my opinion, he was probably as conditioned, almost as conditioned, maybe a little tiny bit smoother, but still with his fullness, he just overall looked better. Sure, his midsection was a little bit washed up, but from behind, I don't think there was a big difference. And it's not like Quinton is not posting photos from behind because he's not happy with conditioning, but I think it's because he's not happy with muscularity. His back is still not developed enough. And in terms of conditioning from behind, this is actually the photo I found on Quinton's account, so there are photos. Somebody else posted this and he collabed with them, so it is on Quinton's profile, but the difference in conditioning, it's not that big. I mean, look at the glutes, like they are pretty much equally as conditioned. Maybe a tiny bit smoother, but it isn't a big difference. But look at the difference in fullness in the legs, like the adductors, where they connect. Huge difference, much better at Toronto Pro stage. And as far as the back itself, same thing. Conditioning pretty much equal. I would say because of the new fullness, his back even looked bigger, harder, fuller. So I think he was better from behind and from the front, much better. I completely disagree with Matt on this. But let's hear what else he had to say.
Initially, he was going to go to California. And I said, hey man, like within the changes that you need to make, going to California, I don't think is in your best judgment. You know, and he's like, well, I for sure think that I can be 270 in Toronto and I could be 280 on stage by the end of this year. And I said, with where you're at currently and the actual tissue and maintaining hardness, I don't think that's realistic. And that's where I think we kind of went our separate ways. His look in New York, I'm not proud of that look, but if we want to compare both looks, I really wouldn't have been proud of the Toronto look. And that's why I brought it to you. Like, yeah, sure, he placed well, but he placed better in a lesser lineup, and he placed like his conditioning, especially from the back, washed out through his abs, like those just things that I just don't align with from a coaching philosophy. I'm a conditioning guy, so, and I really was judging a lot of his images off of his back shots because that's where he holds his fat.
All right, so again, I completely disagree with this. I think his package overall was much better at the Toronto Pro, and I don't think conditioning was that much worse. He definitely did get bigger and fuller and heavier, and it actually looked pretty good if you ask me. And also what Matt says about basing his decisions only on Quinton's back, I think that was also a big mistake. He was only looking at his back and he is holding more in his back area, but he should definitely consider that this guy he has a huge structure, and if his back is holding more, I think it was a good trade-off to let him be a little bit more fat from behind and still full and big from the front. I think it will play out better, but he doesn't feel that way. And after this, Milos Sarcer actually made a really good point, and you guys know that he has experience with these big guys, tall guys, like Samson Dauda, and you have examples of Andrew Jack as well. These guys are not exactly super conditioned, from behind especially, but they're doing really well because they are big guys, tall guys with super big frames, and when they are filled out, they actually look very impressive on that stage, even if they're not the most conditioned guys on that stage. So let me play you what Milos said.
Quinton asked me, on Instagram, and I responded to him. I think, of course, you guys were chasing condition, and exactly what you're saying. Probably you didn't see to your level satisfactory condition, and you keep digging and keep digging. But his height and his structure, conditioning-wise, of course, New York was way better. But with his structure, this is when you trade off. I think that he needs to fill up, even if he loses a little bit of conditioning. For that structure, that would look, much better. But which look would win? Quinton, New York, Quinton, Toronto.
I guess it depends on who's judging it.
It was all Toronto. It was all Canadians.
The Canadian judges, okay. Who they awarded based off of sharpness in New York? I would say that the New York look would still have reigned superior. When he turned around, there was a lot of detail that was lost, and there was just body fat that was there and water.
All right, so that was definitely a dig at Quinton. He says it depends on who the judges are, and he knew that at Toronto Pro it was all Canadian judges, and Quinton is Canadian. So he's saying basically that they placed him so high because he's from Canada, which I don't know if I agree with. I mean, there are arguments for John Jewett placing ahead of Quinton. Some people felt that way, but I don't know, I didn't think so. I think Quinton was definitely superior because of his structure and his shape and so on, and with this new fullness, it was very good if you ask me. And John, he was maybe more conditioned, but yeah, the structure, I'm not a huge fan. So I think Quinton deserved that victory, even though the judges were Canadian. And as far as his Toronto Pro version versus New York Pro version, Matt still thinks New York is better. I disagree. I think it's Toronto, but maybe you guys agree with Matt. And then also from behind, I don't think there was a lot of water and fat. I think he was dry, just full and bigger, heavier. It simply was, overall, a much better look. Let's hear what else Matt had to say, because the other things he said, I agreed with.
Really, what's important to me is that the internal communication is there, and then it's not just broadcasted out to everybody. But if he's reaching out to all of you guys, if he's reaching out to his friends, if he's reaching out to every coach in the industry, this whole process of this game of telephone is just going to spiral out of control.
Okay, yeah, I agree with this. This is definitely very bad. If you have a coach, you shouldn't be talking to other coaches, to your friends, to everybody in the industry, basically, as Quinton was. You guys saw how many people he tagged at his Toronto Pro show. Like, he was helped by, 6-7 people. So, that's definitely not the best way to go about it, especially if you have a coach. Even if you don't have a coach, one set of eyes is usually enough. Sure, you can have a posing coach, but that's it. And Quinton was, he was insecure, so he was talking to everybody else, and that's not very good. That's not very professional, so I can see that this collaboration between these two guys didn't click at all.
He had a year and a half, right? And you see him gaining the size. Why do you think it didn't translate?
I can't answer that. He spent some time with Steve Weinberger earlier on in this year, and Steve really encouraged him to go to a lower volume Dorian type split, which I am a huge proponent of. But I think a large part of that being successful is the individual really truly being able to take the sets to the true brain. If you are not able to do that, then you're not providing enough of a stimulus, because in a low volume, you're not creating enough stimulus there if you're not driving those sets to true failure to create that. So that could have been part of the problem too. And I addressed that with Quinton as well. I said, hey man, you might just be more of a higher volume guy due to the amount of individual stimulus that you can give to each individual set.
Alright, this was also very interesting. I wouldn't say this was a dig at Quinton. Matt was just being honest and realistic. And I don't know this for sure, but I heard from people who are in the gym with Quinton that he is not exactly training very hard. Many people said it so far. A lot of people who watch his YouTube channel said the same thing. So Quinton is not exactly the most intense guy. And this was also kind of like Matt's mistake, but he admits that he's aware that Quinton was never meant for a low volume training, and Matt failed to see that. He didn't see the way Quinton was training, and if there is no intensity in low volume, it doesn't make any sense. So if he can't really train hard, if he doesn't have the heart for it, if he's not able to go to the pain zone, to really push himself to go over to the failure and beyond failure, if he can't do it, then, I guess volume is the best thing he can do. And I don't know which one of these two guys failed with this, Matt for not seeing that Quinton is not able to push really hard, or Quinton for not pushing hard. Maybe he can, he just too lazy or something like that, I don't know, but definitely this didn't work out because of that. That's probably the reason why Quinton lost so much tissue in the prep. He was probably, tired from dieting, and he wasn't able to train very hard, during the prep. So that was really a big mistake, and it is what it is. In the end, they parted their ways. I think Dorian Hamilton knows all these things about Quinton, so I think Quinton should stick with Dorian, and I think Matt would probably figure out Quinton's body in another year, but Quinton was not patient enough to keep working with him, and he consulted with so many other people and coaches that there is no way this guy is going to ever go back to working together. So it is what it is, it's done. Now we know how Matt feels. Whatever you guys think about what Matt says, tell me down below. Alright, next up we got some really exciting news. Behrouz Tabani is officially doing the Dubai Pro. The rumors are true and they can be put to rest. Milos Sarcev just announced Dubai Pro Behrouz Tabani is coming, and he's gonna be facing Neckzilla, Rubiel Mosquera. This is gonna be an amazing mashup. We're gonna have like aesthetics and conditioning and shape on Behrouz's side, and then mass and size and freak factor on Rubiel's. Who's gonna win this show? I think it's hard to say, but for me personally, I would go with Rubiel. In my opinion, and you guys probably know if you watched my previous video about Neckzilla, I think that guy is potentially top 5 Mr. Olympia. And Behrouz, I don't think he's there quite yet. I think he is a top 10 guy, but top 5, I don't think so. And Neckzilla, he didn't prove that he's a top 5 guy. I mean, that's just my assumption, my prediction, the way I feel. But it doesn't have to be necessarily true, and whatever you guys think, tell me down below. But as far as this comparison, like, Behrouz's biggest weakness are his legs, which is Neckzilla's strongest point. And Neckzilla's weakest point would be his shape, his structure, his waist size compared to the shoulders and so on, his front double bicep especially, I suppose, and those are all Behrouz's strongest points. And so far, like, we haven't really seen Neckzilla super diced, while Behrouz is coming in super shredded, super dry. But I think Neckzilla is going to be much better this year than we saw him last year. I think he improved his upper body a lot, and I think he's going to come in a lot better conditioning. Now, he's not going to be dry as Behrouz. I don't think he can be because of that much muscle. He has too much muscle to be so deeply separated as Behrouz. But I think with a decent conditioning and with some improvements in his upper body, better posing, I think he's definitely, again, a top 5 guy. I think there is a big gap between these two guys, but I could be wrong. Maybe Behrouz beats him, but the way I see it, no. No, I think Neckzilla is winning this one. But it's definitely a case of apples and oranges. We have shape and conditioning on one side and freak factor and mass on the other. So it's going to be a very interesting show. I can't wait to see it. Maybe I'm going to be there in Dubai and watch this show live. We'll see. But yeah, it's going to be an amazing show. I'm really excited about this one. It's awesome that Behrouz is in. So Neckzilla is going to have somebody of the top guys to contend him for this win. And then also for the end, we got a little short clip from Regan Grimes and his most recent physique update. What do I think when I see this? What I'm thinking is Regan truly trying his hardest to improve, to progress? Well, just as usual, it doesn't seem that way. But even the way he was doing things so far, he was still making progress. Each year, he was like 10 pounds heavier every year. So now he's gonna take a little bit longer off, And I mean, I don't know what he's doing right now. He could be in a health phase. I don't want to say he's off, because last time when I said it about Nick Walker, you guys were like, he's never off, he's 2 grams and so on. So I don't know what Regan is doing, what his off is, but he could be in a health phase, but maybe not. Maybe this is him just, kind of doing as much as he can, which is probably not a lot. I don't think this guy is going to lock in and really unlock his full potential. I mean, I don't see it as of right now. I don't see it in his physique or in his mindset or in his training videos, but I don't know. You guys can take a look and tell me what do you think. And if you guys are watching this channel and following it and you're not subscribed, you don't have to subscribe. You can see my videos still, but if you want to do me a favor, if you want to help me out, just subscribe. It will mean a lot to me. And also, guys, if you're looking for coaching and you want to find a coach who is very much available for you guys and affordable as well, you can hire me. Just DM me on Instagram and we can talk about and agree on your plan and so on. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you soon. All the best and bye-bye.